Welcome to Goose Digital's Fireside Chats insurance segment. We hold these every month or so to bring together people and industry leaders to talk about the latest in digital marketing, tech, AI, and anything related to helping the broker carrier channel succeed in today's online world. I'm very excited to talk with Christy. This is kind of I think our third chat now, actually, across. I met you only, I think, about a month ago, but Christy is the CEO and co-founder of Quickfacts. I'm going to let Christy do your intro of what the platform is and how you got started. But I just want to say that, I think what you've built and why you built it is super fascinating on so many different levels that we're going to get into today. But yeah, it's been a pleasure over the last 3 weeks of getting to know you.
Yeah. Well, thanks,
So
and thanks for
welcome.
having me. It's been great having all these conversations with you, and yeah, really being able to dive in and share what we do at QuickFacts. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, why don't you give a bit of an overview? I know you, but no one else does. And just for the audience, I mean, we just a recap. I know we get new listeners all the time. I'm Jen Pugsley, the VP of Customer Success at Goose Digital. Been with the company since it started in 2014. And really, my role is working with our insurance segment, which it makes up carriers, brokers, MGAs in the space. We are a full service digital marketing provider. We are not an insurtech. Sometimes we get wrapped up in that paintbrush, but we have an insurtech on the phone or on the line today. I don't know if you kind of I guess you identify as like your software
Yes,
company, right?
we would. Yeah, we fall into InsurTech.
But I love how you approach insurtech. I think insurtech has a bit of a rep, and but I love your story. I love the realness behind the product and so many other things. So I'm going to turn it over to you and give us a big background on the Quickbacks journey, how it started, why it started, and we'll just get into it.
Sure. Yeah. So it all started with me. I was a broker for 17 years before starting QuickFacts. And my journey started right at the front desk, right at reception at the brokerage. I got my license. I moved into data entry, did our first rollover to Depop our facility book of business, got a lot of underwriting knowledge there, moved into sales, service, and eventually management. And I was managing my brokerage at a very early age, in hindsight, which is pretty phenomenal. And yeah, I was always on the operational side of the business. That's where my skill sets really thrived, and I was able to kind of always bring some new ideas and new suggestions to life. So we'll fast forward to where I decided to start QuickFacts. So it all started with a big life event for me. I was having a wonderful patio beer on a beautiful summer's day in Charlottetown, PEI, and unfortunately, that restaurant did not have their patio umbrellas secured properly. And a giant gust of wind lifted that patio umbrella up, Mary Poppins styles, and I got hit in the head. Thankfully, I am okay. Did have recovery time after that, but it's what led me to QuickFacts, because all through my recovery, all I could think about was, okay, does my team know this? Does my team know this? Does my team know this? Who's going to answer all the questions? And that was because my entire day was supporting my team, answering underwriting questions, answering internal rules and process questions. And I was that internal Google, I guess, for a lack of a better word, where everybody just asked me. So when I was home recovering, it's all I could think about was how are they going to make do? And I really started the idea of QuickFacts then, and figuring out ways to try and help and support the team. So I decided to kind of try and pilot this. So with the last brokerage I was working with, made arrangements with them that I could be working on this in my spare time and testing it at the brokerage. And I didn't know what I was doing. Tech is not my background.
Yeah.
I was a broker. A broker is my background. So I had to really learn how to, develop that. And at the time, I didn't realize what I was doing was I was building out the pilot,
Yeah.
and really testing and validating that pilot. So, that software I was using, Wix site at the time, and it was very, very limited, but it showed the potential in what could happen. So then fast forward 4 years of that,
Yeah.
and working on it, COVID hit. So then COVID really forced me to see that this product was really needed, because it was helping my brokerage that I was working at, but all brokerages everywhere started to suffer because they didn't have the same dynamic that they were used to. They now had to
Right.
work from home remotely. They didn't have the ability to tap people on the shoulder and ask them easily anymore, and it made it very complicated to have those resources. So that's when I found my co-founder as well, who really helps complement me on the business side of things. His background is as sales, marketing, financials, all of those kind of things, to help complement my skill set. So we decided to launch Quickfacts in December 2020. Did it very quietly here in Atlantic, Canada. So I should put that out there. So our company was founded out of Bedford, Nova Scotia. And yeah, we started really slowly, because a big part of that was making sure to validate the product, get
Yeah.
some early adopter brokers on, and then start working with the carriers and getting permissions to use the information on our software, and then be able to start scaling. So yeah, so that is how we all got started at
Yeah.
QuickFacts. A little bit about my background.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, it's crazy because ever since I heard your story, I can't sit on a patio without looking at an umbrella and thinking like that would be they're
Yes,
so
please
heavy.
check.
And yeah, I'm always like, oh geez, like gotta be I don't want to sit anywhere near this umbrella.
I've
Right?
been on a patio since where the umbrellas went wild, and I think anybody in my circle knows to check their patio umbrellas now too.
Yeah, I think what's so fascinating, I think maybe what I resonated as well, like just about the story, is that we all started somewhere. I think my story is very similar to yours in the sense that I started in insurance at the very in the mailroom as the receptionist at a direct writer that was owned by a bank at the time, and same thing, got licensed and just kind of worked through that whole the side of the business. And then in 2012, I left and started the marketing side, the digital marketing side of the house, working with insurance. So it's just kind of, but I remember the struggle. I mean, I remember when I was at the bank, it was one product, right? It was one product. It was a direct writer. It was pretty easy to learn the ropes, especially the underwriting ropes inside and out of that product, right? Our underwriters were right on like literally across the hall from us. And when I went to the broker world through about 4 hours or 4 years later, I was like, what? It was like a whole shock to me, right? And so I do remember that struggle. I'm trying to build a book of business on the commercial side. And that was back then when you could really email your underwriter for everything, right? I know
Yeah.
maybe that's kind of starting to change and things, but I do remember the struggle of having to learn all these different markets, all the endorsements,
Yeah.
and know them really well, and have them, like, as a salesperson or as a producer growing my own book. It was like, okay, well, I wanted to be sharp, right? I wanted to be as sharp as I was on if I'm being
Right.
really honest, I
Yeah.
wanted to be as sharp as I was on the direct writer side,
Exactly.
right? I could spitball that stuff in my sleep,
Yeah.
and that was really hard to do across 20 markets, 30 markets, right?
100%. And I think what happened too is like we think back to then, because I was no different. I didn't have the product I have now because I wish I did, but didn't. And I think back to then, and there was a lot of markets changes still happen, but the frequency wasn't as often as they're changing now. And I think that that's what some people who have been in the industry a long time don't realize is the rapid amounts of changes that are happening with the insurance underwriting rules and guidelines. I remember, I would get those papers to put into my binders and update, and I would do that, maybe once a year for a company. And now it's changing so rapidly. I gave you the stat before, but just in Ontario since January, there's been 250 manual changes for 43 different carriers. That's a
Yeah,
lot. That's
that's
a
a
lot.
lot.
That's not humanly possible for anybody to keep up
No.
with. So you're not wrong, Jen. Like what you went through coming from a direct market, anybody starting in insurance right now, it's very complicated, and it leads to that talent shortage, right? It's hard enough on the carrier side with underwriters learning their own rules, and then the brokers having to remember those 20 markets. It's a lot to take in. So brokers really need something that's going to help them be able to get a tool that's going to give them the ability to give advice, because that is the value of being a broker, is to give
Yeah.
the right advice and coverage for your customers' needs. And right now they can't do that. They don't have the time
They
to
don't have
do
the
that. It's
time.
too hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, brokers really need something to help them with this journey.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think back to yeah, like the binders with all the little
Yeah.
tabs and the writing the cheat sheet notes down. And then you
Yeah.
you almost buddy up with somebody who knows like a market really well. Like I remember I had this one colleague who it was trucking. She just knew trucking inside and out, right? And I'd always go to her, right? But like you said, you can't always go to somebody. And I think that if we talk about, we all know, like the industry is on such a talent shortage, and we're about to be in even a worse situation across underwriting, across brokers,
Yeah.
everywhere, claims
Yeah.
with people retiring. So
Oh,
I think it's a really big issue, and I that's why it's so fascinating about this what you've built and the passion play, because yeah, like we were kind of talking before we started here. It's just life happens, right? You didn't know at that age you were going to get hit in the head with an umbrella, but there's all the known things of life, obviously having children and what all that kind of stuff that takes you kind of away. And
yeah.
but it's more than that, right? It's like how can it's not only the problems that are happening now, but what does the future look like in terms of supporting brokers through these stages of life so they don't get left behind. But I think more importantly, so that's that. It's supporting the broker, but it's also, like you said, it's supporting the end customer. I think it's
Yeah.
such a
100%.
poor experience if we're really being honest. Some of it's good. Not, I'm not painting it all with that brush, but it is not a great experience on so many levels. And and I think I'm so connected to the industry, you are too, that
Yeah.
you can see where it comes from. But if we weren't connected to the industry, we would just, unfortunately, pull our business. We wouldn't have that understanding or any sort of empathy, right, for this poor broker who's trying to do their best. They can't do their best.
Yeah.
So, and you put us in COVID,
Yeah.
and how with all of that, with all of those challenges, how in the world are we supposed to, is the insurance industry supposed to keep and attract younger people coming, or even into the industry? Like they're just going to look at it, be like, sorry, this is incredibly archaic, right?
Exactly. And it's funny because like through this journey, through fundraising and talking to people outside of the industry more and more to talk about what we're doing and what we're building, I would classically get the answer, this doesn't already exist. And and that's the thing. And it's public's perception too. And when we think about technology and how it's progressed, everybody's used to getting things instantly. Like I can ask my phone a question, I can ask my watch a question even now, and I'm going to get an answer. So when the public calls a broker and says, "Hey, I have X going on that I want to insure," and the broker says, "I'm going to have to call you back in 3 to 4 business days," and they say, "Excuse me? What do
Yeah.
you mean? I want my answer now." Um, And it doesn't matter what generation. It used to be that it was like, oh, that's Gen Z, Gen X, whatever we want to call the younger generation. We thought it was that problem, but no, it doesn't matter what age you are. We are all used to getting information very quickly, and that's not the advantage that a broker has. So you're right; it is leading to that bad service, and it's not intentional. Brokers are doing what they have the access to, right? They're doing the best with what they have. It's just not good enough right now for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, it leads to a lot more client frustrations, potential E&O situations, lost revenue because they don't sell all the markets because they don't have the capacity to know all the markets rules and guidelines. So there's a lot of repercussions that come from brokers not really knowing all of those answers at the top of their heads anymore because it's not possible.
Yeah.
So they really need tools to be able to get them this information faster, to be able to do a good job for the public.
Yeah.
And then obviously internally as well.
Yeah, I think something you hit on there is really interesting. Like, and I'm not privy anymore really to like how how brokers are paid, but we all know there's a big portion of commission on there, right? So if I'm a broker, I'm going to be really frustrated if it's going to affect your sales as well. Like the whole 3-4 days of, and that's actually a decent scenario. 3-4 days of getting back to somebody. I think like you said, I think I think some people are willing to wait on certain types of products and coverage, right? I think if it's something that's like really niche or unique or whatever, but I think on the mainstream stuff, 3-4 days is not acceptable. Yeah, just to touch on that is that if I'm a broker and I make a portion of my money on commission, I'm going to be really frustrated, right? My goal is to service my customers. My goal is to sell more business, and that needs to be a frictionless process, right? It's to the best that it can be, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like with that, on the sales side of things, it's because they're like, you know what? These are the 3 companies I know. I know the policy is not going to come back rejected because I didn't know that rule. So I feel comfortable with this. So even though they, feel like they have a bunch of markets that they can choose from, they're not choosing from all of them. So they are losing opportunities that they could have closed with the companies that they do have. They just don't know that they can sell that business accordingly.
Yeah. Okay, so Christy, can you talk to us about the platform, maybe the UX, some of the things that were really important to you as you've been building it? I'm sure there's been like a version 1 and then a version 5 or what have you, but like, let's get into actually the platform and the software itself.
Yeah, and I kind of want to talk about that. So you're not wrong. We definitely have had different versions and we keep improving, but that's what should happen with technology. It should keep improving. It should keep evolving. So now let's go back to the full question. So the user experience was very, very important to me. It had to be very easy to use. If it was hard to use, if it wasn't intuitive, I knew brokers would not use the platform. So that was very important for me as we were building out this product. Just making sure that everything was very simple, easy to use, easy to navigate, easy to find. But that was my feelings. However, we definitely talked to a lot of customers. We did a lot of focus groups. We continue to do focus groups. We continue to do NPS scores with our customers because at the end of the day, they're the ones using it. So we want to hear from them and we want to make the improvements that they're suggesting to bring value to the product that they're using. So those were the things that I was really passionate about as we were building out the software. So maybe I'll kind of dive into what we do. So So the best way to explain what we do at Quickfacts is we aggregate all of the underwriting rules and guidelines for insurance brokers. So what we do is we take all of the information from carriers' manuals, forms, anything that's relevant to the subject matter that they're looking at, and we pull out the core information into very easy to use tables. So then that way brokers can see their insurance companies side by side, see the core underwriting rules that they need to compare together, and then they can see them. And then we complement it with forms, wordings, questionnaires, um, frequently asked questions, training guides, you name it, whatever the carrier kind of wants to provide for that resource. So to put it into perspective, it'd be like looking up solar panels and saying, okay, what's the max kilowatts? What's the max value? What can they sell back to the grid? Can they not? And then
Mm,
being able to see those carriers side by side to be able to say, okay, this company really wants this business, or oh, this one definitely does. Let's move on. So then it's helping them eliminate the carriers that aren't going to be the market that wants that, and then really be able to be confident in selling or servicing that product for the carriers that do want that business, and having everything all there at one click of a button, all in one spot, so that way they don't have to go searching around. Because the alternative for brokers right now, and especially for maybe some in the audience that don't know what the current journey is brokers, to get that information, they need to log into an insurance company's portal, find a PDF manual, and then find that information in a PDF. We've timed that journey. That's 2 to 5 minutes per carrier. And that's if they don't get locked out by not knowing their password or needing to
yeah.
redo it or what have you. So that's a lot of wasted time. So right now on our software, we're saving brokers 72 minutes per day in wasted time searching through carrier portals.
Wow.
Yeah. So
What I love about that information is, so for on my side of the house, when I work with brokers on marketing and lead generation programs or what have you, I really help them focus, because we have a great relationship with the carriers as well,
yeah.
is to really help them focus on driving the right, let's go after the right type of business that your carrier wants to write, right?
Right.
So from a lead generation perspective, like no one wants to spend money driving leads that on a product line that that your carrier's not wanting to write. They have no
No.
appetite to write that business, right? So I love this, and a lot of times there's so many hidden gems
Yes.
within these endorsements and coverage advantages that can be brought to the marketing side that aren't being utilized. Then it's a win-win situation. And now you can look back at a 90-day, from, again, veering off a little bit here on the marketing side, but
Yeah.
then you can look back and have a true ROI that's
Right.
aligned with both parties, right?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
but to get that information, the way I get it today is quite literally teaming up on brainstorm sessions with my broker carriers and sifting through that information, whereas it's, it sounds like it's right there inside your platform.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's whatever the carrier is giving to the broker for what they have access to, is the information that we have, and then yeah, everything's just all in one spot for that efficiency. Because after they get after they get the lead and they get the people in and then they make the sale, there's a lot of things that cause inefficiency. So maybe they didn't know a form needs to be signed to go with that, or a questionnaire needs to
Mm,
be done for that. So then now it gets sent back and said, oh, now you need to do this questionnaire. So then you got to go back to the customer and say, oh, you need to do this doc. So there's just so many back and forths that happen after it. So like you said, hard enough to figure out where to put the lead gen, but then after you get the lead, where is it going to go? And then after you get that, what do I need to complement that to actually
yeah.
replace the business? So there is a lot to it, and I think that's the piece that people don't realize what brokers have to figure out, in order to do that. And that's why there's a lot of the I'm sorry, I have to call you back, because they need to take time to dig in and figure out everything that's going to be needed in order to make sure that that business goes properly and smoothly to that carrier.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you're not, as the consumer, you may not be privy to the fact that you're not you're not getting the choice that you
Yeah,
think you're getting, the choice that you're, by going with a broker, you're probably not privy to that. But what you are privy to is the experience, right?
exactly.
And like you said, if it's like, oh, okay, sorry, I came back to you after 3 days, now it's a questionnaire, now it's a this, it's,
Exactly.
with everything else that we're doing in our lives on a daily basis, right? Whether it's doing a will, whether it's,
Yeah.
getting meal service Monday to Friday, like the list goes on and on and on and on. It's not just the obvious ones, buying, you know, your groceries on, like those are all this kind of simple ones I guess you can think of, but it's everything that we do every single day, and then you still have some of these very legacy
Yeah.
experiences that are really frustrating, and it doesn't actually build trust. I think that's the biggest thing, is that what's starting to happen, and I see this on the digital marketing side of the house, is that I try and work with customers to understand that if I'm running an email campaign, or building a landing page, like we were really obsessed with fit and finish, because what happens is now that when it's a lack of fit and finish, it's actually looks like spam.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
now there's this whole world of like, and I've even had my mom call me to be like, is this spam? Like, not something I sent her, but
Yeah.
and I said, no, mom, it's probably just they probably just don't know what they're doing. I would just delete that. Right. But it's taken in that context.
Yes.
Right. So that's where that whole, and that just goes to show how quickly it changed our brain structure to recognize and to correlate what is building trust with something that is quality, right? So it's the
Exactly.
same on this front. If I get like the runaround and it's into this and into that, it starts to feel like, do you know what you're doing? Like, why didn't you just give me that questionnaire,
Exactly.
4 days ago?
Exactly. And it kind of goes back to what I said earlier. Like, it's robbing the brokers of what their value is, which is giving advice. And they don't have the time to do this because of how complicated it is. So they really need technology to be able to simplify that, so that way they can get back to being that trusted advisor, as they should be. And I'm excited for tech to be able to do that for brokers, because it's long overdue. They deserve it. They need it. And it's what's going to really help build that trust back.
Yeah, and I think what I love about getting to know you and learning about this product is that you're very, what you created is very genuine. I mean, like you said, every software is going to go through iterations and advancements, but I think how you've approached this is, and yeah, I'm sure you have carrier backing, which I want to talk about in the second, like carrier support here in terms
Yeah.
of getting their information in here. So I want to talk about that for a minute too. But I do think part of what gives software and insure tech kind of this, unknown bad, not, I don't want to say poor name, but I think there's a lot of non-transparency. Okay, so there's these
Yeah.
investments that are happening in insure tech, and then the tech is not really fulfilling this kind of utopia or dream that it kind of was promised, right? And I don't really see that. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but I think what
Yeah, I
you've done
do.
is really great to kind of change that conversation.
Yeah, and kind of going back to what I was passionate about launching this is, I was on the other end. I was given a lot of insure tech to try, and sold it as one way, and it did not do what it was sold to me to do. And then I spent months figuring that out and lost all of that time to stop using it in the end because it didn't do what it was promised. And that always stuck with me.
Yeah.
So for us, we might have gone to market a little slower than some other insure techs, but that was by design because I knew how tight knit our industry is, and if our product didn't do what it said it was supposed to do, I
Yeah.
knew it wouldn't work. So we were very passionate about that, and my passion spread to the whole team, and our whole team lives by that constantly now, which is really good. And it was really great. We got to meet some brokers on our last customer visits when we were in Ontario, and one of my customers said that to me, unsolicited. She just said, this is the first software that we bought that did what it said it would do
Oh,
in
that's
from the
so
sales
good.
demo. And I said to her, like, you don't know how much that means to me because she had no idea like that's one of my personal values, right? So
Yeah.
it's really passionate to me. The other thing I do want to say is talking on the insure tech lens is sometimes brokers think they're going to get an all-in-one system.
Yes.
That system does not exist, and I don't want to burst anybody's bubbles or break somebody's heart, but it isn't possible right now for all the technologies to do all of the things all in one. It isn't. So
Yeah.
what is possible is really vetting the software that you're using, really understanding the use case of what you need it to do, not just be like, oh, I need this because everybody's telling me I need this. I'll use AI. AI is a great buzzword to use right now. Some people have no idea what that even means,
Yes.
and that there's different versions of it and whatnot. So what I worry about is people getting lost in the hype of being like, I need AI and I don't know what it needs to do. I just know I need it. And that I worry about, because brokers can spend a lot of time and a lot of money not searching for the right thing. So what I suggest for brokers going into looking at any insurtech is understanding, what do I need it to do in my
Yeah.
brokerage? What is the core problem my brokerage is facing? And then what tech solutions are there to fix this problem? And I think that's going to help mitigate that. So then that way, they're not getting a program that doesn't do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, and we follow that same mantra and in a slightly different context, but it's the same thing. It's like we're always talking about strategy led. So Goose Digital is a service provider, not a technology provider. The difference is that we operate technology and can bring technology to the table on behalf for our brokers, because we know it so well. We're certified in several different type of platform technology, but it's just a vehicle. It is just a vehicle. If you do not, you don't have a strategy, and this is more on the kind of the marketing and sales side of the house, but if you don't have a strategy, and you don't know what problems you're trying to solve, and really know what problems you're trying to solve, and work with somebody who can help you determine what is a priority and what isn't a priority, or maybe that comes later, right? Also try to source partners, third party partners that will help you consolidate if you can. I think so I agree with you. Your tech stack is going to be a tech stack. There isn't going to be an all-in-one solution, but I do think your partners that you're working with, like a Goose Digital, should have your best interest at heart to say, you know what, once we solve this piece, we know you can get rid of this over here, right?
Right.
Because it's solved,
Exactly.
because, right? So I think, and there's not enough partners out there that are having that conversation. But I mean, we say it all the time. I said it yesterday to a broker that, it doesn't matter if we go HubSpot or if we go this or we go that. What matters is, what are the goals? What are we trying to achieve, right?
Exactly.
We work that together, then I'm going to be able to tell you that, you know what, we're going to need this
Exactly.
based on if you want to grow $2 million in this segment, I know we're going to need this, right?
Exactly.
If we don't, and we're trying to do this and we're going more brand awareness and this and that. So I think it's a passion play for me too, to have more people like you in the industry that are talking that talk, because I do
Yes.
feel bad for brokers. They've invested a lot. They don't know what questions to ask. And there's more of us around the table, right? Emma Roloff out of the US.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's on that mantra too, which is
Yeah.
awesome. So there's a lot. I think that the conversation's starting to change,
It
right?
is, and I think it's good. And I just thought of something as you were talking, like a perfect analogy. If you're gonna build a house,
Yeah.
you need a plan. You need the
Yeah.
house plan, or else people will just show up and be like, "Well, I don't know what to build," or your
Yeah.
kitchen will end up in the completely wrong spot that you don't want your kitchen. So
Yeah.
you need that plan. So regardless of how fancy that house is going to be at the end of the day, you need the plan to start it. So same with the tech stack.
Yeah.
You can have all the fanciest tech stacks you want, but if you don't know the plan for your brokerage, it's not gonna be built the way that you want it to.
Yeah.
But definitely know brokers need technology. Technology
Yeah.
needs to help accelerate their path. They just need to know the plan first.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about kind of the carrier, so you've got great relationships with these carriers. Obviously, they're giving you the information. So talk about like how that's kind of evolving.
Yeah, and I love talking about that because I think about when I started this journey. That was the biggest thing that I got from people. I was saying, "Oh, the carriers, they're never going to work with you," and I was like, "Well, I can ask, and if they say no, then yeah, my dream dies, and if they say yes." then this is great.
Yeah.
I know this is a little more trivial, I'm making it more trivial than it is, but and definitely a lot of stress and time involved in making that happen. But what I'm really happy about is when I had these conversations with our carrier partners, they saw the value for their brokers first. And don't get me wrong, there's a benefit for them because it helps reduce the amount of calls coming to their
For
underwriting
sure.
team. Absolutely. But the very first thing that the majority of them said is absolutely because we can't do this for our brokers. So that's the other thing that sometimes brokers can get wrapped up in is they're like, well, the carrier should do this. Carrier can't. It's much like rating. And
Yeah.
carriers cannot work together to provide a rating solution. It's no different. So they really needed a software to come in that they could work with. And, a lot of that is around trust too. So making sure that relationship started off on the right foot, making sure, that our system is secure to keep their information secure. We have permissions in place. So making sure that they vetted all of those things to be able to work with us. And then, yeah, just proving the partnership and the value that we're bringing to the care to their broker partners as
Yeah.
well, and them seeing that firsthand really helps continue to show the value to our carrier partners, which makes it really exciting to see.
Awesome. And the solution's customizable, right? The solution's also customizable to each brokerage, right? You can customize your own workflows, your own training
Yes.
guides, like that kind of thing.
Exactly. So outside of the main comparison product is what we call it for the insurance company rules and guidelines, brokers can build their own internal rules and processes. So then that way everything lives in one operational software and it's very drag and drop technology. Like honestly, you do not have to have any kind of technology skills to use this platform. Very drag and drop. You can add design into it, photos, videos. And really be able to build out that journey for people to understand what's required in the brokerage because there's a lot of moving pieces. So, yeah, in order for your teams to use the tech stacks that you have properly, yeah, they will need a workflow to follow in order to make it execute properly or report properly or what have you. And once again, kind of going back to what we talked about earlier with keeping talent in our industry, not only is it overwhelming for the rules and processes for the carriers, they come in and they have to learn complicated broker management systems, all the other tech stack, and everything on top of it. It's a lot to learn. So on top of not finding insurance and companies information easy, that's not an easy way to find brokers' internal processes. It's always hey, Christy, how do I do this? Or, hey, Christy, where does this paper go? Or, hey, Christy, that's
Yeah.
generally how it works in brokers right now. And don't get me wrong, some brokers definitely have their rules, their internal processes documented, but there's limited software that they can be using for that right now as well. It usually is a Word document or OneNote and a shared drive that's really hard to maintain and keep updated, goes out of date, a lot of work to build or maintain, as I said. So, our software really helps them be able to keep things updated, make it searchable for their brokers to be able to find very easy and all of those things. So being able to really have everything operational in one platform for them.
Yeah. Yeah. And where do you see, so big picture,
Yeah.
where do you want the technology to go? Like, and I don't know if you can say or not, so feel free to veto the question, but, do you see rating services in there? Do you see,
I
like,
think we're going to stick with knowledge. I'll say that. We're very passionate on the knowledge play. So I feel like our knowledge side of things will keep evolving as we keep going. The two big things that I will speak about that we definitely have on the roadmap is our product expansion. So having more product lines. So we started with personal lines to really establish those relationships with carriers, validate it, things like that. So moving more into the commercial space and being able to bring a great offering there. And then working with MGAs, specialty products, things like that. So that's kind of the vision for the products that we'll be evolving to. And then finishing going across Canada. So right now we're in all provinces except Quebec,
Okay.
and we're working with a lot of the Quebec carriers right now to really make that come to life in Quebec. And yeah, we anticipate Quebec for the new year, so that's really exciting to be able to bring them our solution as well. So yeah, and then
That is
after
very
that,
exciting.
keep going. The world's
Yeah,
big.
very exciting. Like super exciting on the MGA side of the house and the commercial side. Like I know that these the underwriters, they're on the brink of losing so much knowledge
Oh yeah.
in these people that are retiring. Like
Oh,
it's just, and
absolutely.
how do you replace that? I mean, I know even off the top of our own customers who share with me that they've got people working into their 70s. They got underwriters on staff working into their 70s because it's like who else has that knowledge, right?
Exactly.
So
So that's really what we're striving to be, is that knowledge management system for our industry, because it's long overdue. And going back to the injury, like nobody knows what can happen at any stage,
no,
as we already talked about, talent shortage that's out there, just employee shortage and period for the whole world right now. So
yeah.
there's lots of factors that come into play, and that's where technology should be used to complement it.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have to wrap it up, unfortunately, but I love that last. I love that. We'll come back and do a part two, and maybe we do this on this fireside chat at Goose Digital, or maybe we bring it back to my other podcast. But I do think there's a whole segment there on the change of the workforce, from COVID, now this whole remote work culture,
Yeah.
this whole mixture of life and work, what that means for our health, what that means for our entire career, working from life happens, right?
And job satisfaction.
Yeah, job satisfaction, all of
Uh-huh.
these things, and what does that actually mean from a technology perspective? I think that part is, to me, is so fascinating, right?
Agreed.
There's a
Agreed.
whole new world out here right now, and it's gone from like this crazy hustle, you know, keep work and life completely separate,
Yeah.
to it's completely molded. What does that all look like? And I think that's a whole part two. But
100%. Because just to complement that, because some people, worry technology is going to take my job, but that I feel like is a very old mindset. More
yeah,
people are like, no, I need technology to do my job better, to
yeah,
do it more efficiently, to be able to not be stressed out and tired every day. So,
yeah,
I feel like the world is shifting in that mentality as well. So,
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, it's such an interesting conversation to dive into.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good one, right? Like you're not going to be able to tap on Christy at 6 p.m. if you want to get 2 hours worth of work in, because from 1 to 2 you're running kids all over for camp, like I
yeah,
am today. But
yeah.
anyways, um, well, thank you so much for joining us today. What do let's talk quickly here. Maybe you can share. I know it's a link on your website, which we'll drop in this chat. But what's the next step a broker can take? Get a demo. Is that it?
Yeah, get a demo, chat with our team. So whether you're interested in the comparisons or workflows, what have you, go to our website, book a demo. Our team will definitely love to meet with you. Or if you want, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Whatever way you want to reach out to us, absolutely reach out. We love to chat with you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I just can't wait to follow everything you're doing, and
Thank you.
so awesome. So thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much.